Hey guys, sorry. I did a live earlier. Actually, did I? No, that was I don't even remember. But I wanted to come on here and talk about cat. I think tonight's a really good night to talk about cats. I think the topic tonight for an animal is going to be cats because cats are pretty damn smart. They're intelligent. I will say they are animals that don't really need to be. I will say you'd never see a cat go to a groomer to get groomed because cats do it on their own. They're self-employed groomers is what I like to call it. Um but I thought I would come on here and talk about my daughter Willow, but unfortunately Kathleen yesterday had called me. Actually, I called her when I was at the church, and she's like, "I'm glad you didn't call me 20 minutes before." But unfortunately, the fire alarm went off, and Willow literally scurried right under the dresser where her TV, the dresser her TV's on. But Willow was still having a bit of anxiety, or a lot of it, due to yesterday. But it had to do with somebody probably overcooking food. But it sounds like Kathleen didn't smell whatever it was on her floor. But the what is it the fire department knew exactly what floor it was coming from and what apartment um unit it was coming from. So Kathleen, they have to do like a drill. They have to do like an evacuation, meaning that Kathleen has to go outside. Everybody has to go outside, and Willow, unfortunately, as far as speaking with Kathleen tonight, I did it honestly. I We did talk over 6:30. I'm not going to tell that we did not talk after. We talked way after 6. But a lot of it had to do with supporting Willow because Willow was still very traumatized of what happened yesterday. And I know from cats, because the thing is, cat felines are felines, right? We've got our big cats like lions, tigers, leopards, jaguars. They're going to have a similar response. Now, those of you that go to zoos and they're trying to ease a tiger into another enclosure, or if they're cleaning like the habitat of the tiger, because sometimes what they'll do is the tiger will have like this little shelter, and it would have to be like not in the cave, but yeah, in a cage until the habitat is already clean. But big expanded habitats for these cats a lot of the time, and they're typically sometimes eased into these buildings, into these big sheds with a lock cage, so they're not suffocated. They have room to walk around, but it's just so they can stay cool until their habitat is all clean, is all maintained. Um, but sometimes tigers, any big cat, do not go quietly, because that's the thing. Once they see a fence, they're not they're big cats. They're not going to. You can't go up to them, poke them. So what people have done, what people do in like big cat rescues and zoos, conservation parks, is they will make noise. And the thing is, noise that's very powerful will set a feline into panic mode, or it will set them into more of, I need to flee. So if you were to bash a pan and another pan together, that tiger will not tolerate that noise. That tiger will flee. But again, going back to felines, what we have as domesticated felines often will have the same instinct and react a similar way. But it really depends on the noise that they're dealing with, that they're stressing over about. Because the thing is, noises that will bother a cat are usually up to, so in sound, what is it, like sound frequency, it's how, so it's up to, so cats having, yep, so let's see, around 60. So they did say 70 at once. So it says cats have very incredibly sensitive hearing, about 4 times more sensitive than humans, making them highly vulnerable to loud noises. While their comfort zone is similar to human levels, around 60 to 85 decibels. So again, if a fire alarm were to go off, because as I said, it's the same thing in a school where fire drills happen, right? The fire alarm will go off, and some kids that have disabilities, the noise will bother them. So they'll have to bring in noise canceling headphones or earplugs. Um, so Willow's probably, I feel like she's having that same response with the fire alarm. But it says that they have radar like sensitivity. They have 32 muscles in their ears that can swivel 180 degrees to pinpoint and amplify faint vibrations. But I am concerned about Willow, and I'm in a few minutes I'm gonna look up a fire alarm, and if one of the free if the frequency matches, because what I don't, at least I know I don't have control over it, but if the fire alarm Kathleen has in her apartment is a volume up to 60 to 80 dB, um, they could potentially possibly put like a piece of like styrofoam around the fire alarm because it will condense the sound. But cats can sense vibration, and if it's a loud enough vibration, they react. Um, but sounds like thunderstorms are louder than what we would. I mean, anxiety triggers sounds like a thunderstorm, approximately 120 dB. Fireworks and vacuums are not only painfully loud, but also vibrate through their paws and bodies, causing severe agitation. So, two things here is that, I mean, three things here. So, the things I just named, Willow does not like. But if her agitation is spiking like that, what I could do is, all right, but it says a damage threshold. So this is regular exposure to sound levels. Higher than 95 dB will damage a cat's hearing over time as they get older. And a single sudden noise above 120 dB can inflict immediate trauma. So that cat is going to feel immediate trauma. The cat's not going to want to um, want the owner to evacuate or leave. But they say that cats roll. So everybody knows, like humans do, we often trigger a fight, flight, or freeze response. Cats freeze if something sometimes gets close to them, like a dog, but they they do that. Now that's a freeze response of if this dog bites me or gets any closer. It's recommended to provide quiet hiding spots like enclosed cat beds or closets when your cat can retreat during storms, parties, or when running noisy appliances. So I would think the fire alarm would be right under appliance. Well, not a kitchen appliance, but an emergency appliance. It says avoid playing bass heavy music, yelling, or operating loud machinery like blenders or vacuum cleaners. Okay. So if she's getting, the thing is, I started to point out yesterday because at the church, as I was on with Kathleen, I was vacuuming some spots in the pastor's office, and she said Willow's starting to get on high alert. So she was hearing that vacuum through the phone, and I put it off speakerphone, but as I said, any noise like that, because I know Kathleen vacuums a lot in her apartment. You have to vacuum to clean your apartment, but I mean, the more noise, and I understand people can't help that, but I feel like it might even be good is if Kathleen possibly brings Willow in the bedroom and she goes in the closet, closes her bedroom door, and then waits to let Willow out until she's completely done. Because what I'm hearing is that because it took her a while to get in bed with her tonight, and but let's look up the next question. Okay. So, a standard fire alarm typically produces between 65 and 120 decibels of sound when measured from about 10 feet away. This is designed to be loud enough to cut through ambient noise and wake sleeping individuals, including cats. So Willow's gonna wake up, she's gonna spring right up and dart under that dresser. So she has the fight, flight, or freeze. She's fleeing. She's going under that dresser. Hey. Hey. Come here. Thor wanted to join us in this conversation. Come here. Okay, Thor, you got glitter on your whiskers, dude. How did you get glitter on your whiskers? But I but yeah, it's but it says sounds over 85 dB can cause hearing damage with extended exposure because 100 dB alarms can damage your hearing in as little as 15 minutes. You should always move quickly to an exit when one sounds. But I've seen a lot of people, so like I've seen this in studios, like if like there's a recording studio happening and like the noise is kind of going out, it's the ambient, so the overpowering of noise and the ambient noise happening in the back, I mean that can overpower to the point where the noise that is overpowering the ambient noise in the room, it could be something, so for example, it could be something as simple as hearing the seagulls. It's not loud, it's not piercefully loud, but the fire alarm, that fire alarm's going to beat the seagulls noise by 100%. So if we add the seagull noises to the fire alarm, that's going to ramp up Willow's anxiety, or anybody who has a cat. But what was it? Kathleen told me that one of her neighbors has a cat that waits for the click before the alarm goes off. Go. So he kind of knows when the click happens. I think actually they put packing foam around something that's loud. How to condense a fire alarm. But so a couple methods here is run extractor fans. Always turn on your bathroom or kitchen exhaust fans before starting these activities. Um, Create airflow. If you want to condense the alarm sound, is open nearby windows or use a small room fan to direct air currents away from the hallway or the room with the detector. If you wanted, okay. But otherwise, if you, I mean, depending on the thing is, it says you typically don't want to or to condense. You can't usually physically alter the hardware itself without disabling features on the detector. So you really have to clean it or remove dust or adjust your ventilation or temporarily silence the alarm. So, as I said, since I know people that install fire alarms probably have a strict rule about not having somebody living in that apartment without them, meaning that people that live in the apartment won't be able to silence and reset the alarm. The person that installs the alarm has to do it, which makes sense. Um, but if you run, I would say, really, if you aim, so what they're saying is when you create airflow, is if, but the thing is, when you create airflow for this to work, the fan can't be in the same room the fire detector is in. So Hey, buddy, you doing all right? But as I said, um, I mean, and the thing is, she's not only just like sensitive to that alarm, but thunderstorms. So she's sensitive to other powerful noises. But I know people like in like music studios will cover the walls. Like, say if like the noise is gonna outnoise something else, they'll put styrofoam, or not, but like around the walls because it soundproofs the walls. It will absorb background noise. But again, it I because if like you were in a music recording studio with a fire alarm, your music would still be the noise, but the styrofoam around covering the walls would reduce the fire alarm if you were to place it around the alarm. Hmm. But that could be a thought of solving a problem, an ongoing problem for, unfortunately, people who make bad, I would say, bad choices, or really just people just aren't thinking right then and right there. That they have a time where no noise you know goes through an apartment at night. So I'll be back though, because we're gonna talk about some other animals. I just wanted to get that out there, so for anybody who has a cat other than my daughter, that's kind of, those are ways you can kind of deal if your cat has really bad traumatic stress over sounds, because their ears are a lot sensitive to humans. And as I said, they're like little satellite dishes, like little solar panels of. Hey, Thor, come on, buddy. Damn it, Thor. It might be nice if you don't block the door as I'm going to get a drink. You want to come out? All right. I know the door's hitting like all of your body. I gotta suck my gut in. right. So, I thought we would do an appropriate video tonight. I mean, we just talked about cats. Cats, we're going to talk about another animal. So I thought of this like really cool idea. Um, I Kathleen, I know, she's on chapter 6 right now of Sting of the Wild, which is a book her and I actually she's already started. I still need to get my copy, which I plan to get my copy Wednesday cuz I told her that this is a book that I've been freaking wanting to read so bad. But I told her I was going to read it, and she knows how serious I am. I'm going to read it in one live. I'm going to read the whole book. There's 11 chapters, and I'm going to do a whole live on YouTube of me just reading through the entire book. So, and honestly, I know I'm going to do this, and I know that these actions are my animal my animal side of me knows that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it in one day. Um but there's exactly 11 pages, or not 11 pages, 11 chapters. Pages, I'm not so scared. I mean, the next book that we'll be reading when she gets back from Ireland is a 600-page book, but it's the Beatles book, called 1, 2, 3, 4. Beatles. Beatles in Time, yep, by Craig Brown. But this is the book right here. But the 1, 2, 3, 4 chases the chance fusion of the four key elements that made up the Beatles. John John Lennon is fire, Paul McCartney is water, George Harrison is air, and Ringo Starr is earth. There was something similar. That's right. So any of those people growing up too that grew up with the Power Rangers, I'm not get. I mean, I know this is a non-fictional book, but I remember my friends and I so kind of associated with Power Rangers in a way, but I had a group of friends I hung out with in my childhood. They were three brothers, but we would come up with this game and we titled it Power Kids. But we would often, pretend outside that we had like these elemental powers. What was it? I was Earth. Calvin always wanted fire. He wanted to be the guy in red. His brother Job, the second oldest, wanted, I think, either I can't remember. I'm water, I believe it could have been water, air. No, I think it was water. Hayden was the youngest brother out of the three, and he wanted grass or lightning, and I was earth. So we all had our own elements in as a kid. Growing up, I had a pretty wild. It was it was quite interesting growing up with those three and their sister Jade, because Jade kind of got involved too, where if she had came over, like her and I would do this thing where I would kind of like adventure with her. We'd kind of role play with her being like a good witch, and I was like a shapeshifter. And every time, what was it? I completed a set of, I don't know what you would call them, like missions. I could morph into the next stage of an animal. So like it could have been like a simple like a metamorphosis thing where it's like tadpole to frog, um, or like caterpillar to cocoon to butterfly. But I would say outside is like where you really want your imagination to shine and really capture the essence of being outside and enjoying it. Even if you go back to those moments as a kid, thinking that you're a T Rex roaring in your. Hmm. But anyways, I just thought I would read about that book because the element thing is just like really cool. It just reminds me of as a child of like how with a couple of three brothers and I reenacted. I mean, we kind of were like the Beatles back in the day. We weren't just. I mean, fortunately, we tried to be musical. That's right. that follows up with another thing. That's right. So I remember, I don't think they would even remember this, but I had a, what is it, one of those, what is it, first act drum kits at the time, and they came over and were like, let's start a band. And nobody at the time was serious about it. I mean, I was the one that thought of the idea, but I don't even, there wasn't even any lyrics to this thing we made up. We were loud though. We were loud. I was on the drums. Calvin was playing my acoustic guitar I had at the time. No, that's right. I had a karaoke machine. Calvin was singing, and sometimes a musician's dream is there's one kind of like a moment in your life you want to be a rock star, and you want to put all your energy out there, and I did, and it got me somewhere extremely special, and but I remember we didn't even have lyrics at that at when they came over, or nothing, but we need to come up with a proper title, and everybody agreed on what was it, the song being called "Shit on the Ground" or "Poop on the Ground," "Caca on the Ground." They probably actually still remember that. That was actually at that was wow, that was many years ago. But I remember how loud we were in my bedroom. We had a lot of energy that day. But anyways, I like talking about many positive highlights about my past. But again, we're talking about, let's go on to talk about rhinos. Now, rhinos, as I mentioned, actually I did not mention this, but rhinos are a close second to one of my favorite animals on the planet, along with the hippo. Unfortunately, hippos elite, because there's two species of hippo. There's the pygmy hippo, and there's the um hip the bigger hippo. I mean the no, I don't want there's the hippopotamus, and there's the pygmy hippo, which The pygmy hippo is a fully grown hippo, but it's a lot smaller than its cousin, as the common hippopotamus. But rhinos, I felt like was an appropriate animal to talk about tonight because there's been time videos on YouTube from Kruger National Park where hippos will pick on rhinos. I saw this on YouTube the other night from Kruger National Park. A hippo and this was a night safari. But people got footage of a hippo sneaking behind a herd of what it looked to be. They could have been black. The dark is hard to tell, but it could have been a herd of white rhino, or it could have been some black rhino. But the hippo was like right behind them. I don't know if the hippo was telling them like this is my territory. I'm guessing that's probably what it was. The rhinos got a bit too close, but those rhinos probably would have not at all let's just say let the hippo, because it was one hippo and like three rhinos. But white rhinos are like huge. They're bigger. Their weight by their weight, they're a lot larger than black rhinos. I don't doubt that rhinos are aggressive, but there's two species of rhino in Africa. There's, as I said, the white rhino, and there is the black rhino. Now, I'm going to talk about each species and really what what makes one of them reign, I guess, reign superior than the other one, or which one remains. So we're really going to go over rhino behavior, things that rhinos have that many other animals may not. Because rhinos, but what a lot of people actually want, and I feel like this is one of the most common questions people ask, is when a rhino charges and they have poor eyesight, how can they see while running? Well, rhinos may have poor eyesight, but the thing is, if you really think about a rhino and they're seeing a person standing probably maybe 5 feet, 8 feet away from them, that is going to be a big blur to the rhino. So, what they do have so the enhanced um, senses they do have is through smell and hearing. Rhinos have one of the best hearing. They're actually one of the best hearing animals of all Africa, or mainly most of Africa. And when they pick up a scent, they can smell, and they, as I said, you'll see like hunters approach a white rhino cow and her calf. And will she charge? I feel like she might, and she'll typically will snort. Um, she might, but most of the, I mean, I've seen people get right close to a white rhino cow and her baby, and they'll sometimes turn the other way and just walk away, like run away. Like they don't want any. beef with people with humans, and a big part of that is white rhinos are unfortunately are more, I would say a lot more of them are poached than black rhinos. White rhinos are larger, so I feel like poachers take advantage of the bigger animals because they could be getting more of the valuable material from that animal, from that species. Black rhinos, another story. Now, again, I've watched Ivan Carter's show a lot, and he's got a couple episode. One of them was an episode about tracking rhino poachers. And rhino poaching is incredibly gruesome, and it it's sickening to watch. That white rhinos unfortunately struggle to live free, especially if it's a young calf circling around her mother that was killed by poachers. She's the baby's still alive, but mom's dead. And that was one of the cases Ivan had to go to. It was a baby female rhino who had she was circling around a tree, but her mom was there dead due to the doing of rhino poachers. Um and it was incredibly sad because that baby rhino, that little girl, just kept running. And well, I mean, Ivan is really there to help, but they were able to relocate that baby rhino, going into what is it, like a day, not a daycare, but what do you call it, a yes, more of like a an orphaned animal center for baby animals that have lost their parents in the wild due to poaching, due to habitat destruction, anything, but mainly the causes that we inflict on animals, especially parenting animals. That's our doing. That's human nature. That's humans, because we don't always sit back and think about what animals, how beautiful and unexpected their lives are, knowing that we could be sharing the same area with them. This, as I said again, this orphaned female rhino baby girl was circling around her mom, and it was incredibly. But the babies have this like, oh, I can't even do it right, but it's but it's kind of like that, but it's very, I can't even do it, something like that, but it's I'm horrible at it. um but nor white rhinos are unfortunately the ones that poachers pick off a lot of, because of, I feel like the bigger the animal, the more material that animal could have could be harvested.
Barnes's North Conway Cinema. Watch the Barnes's North Conway Cinema. Watch the mummy.
But anyways, guys, yeah, I mean, rhinos are one of those animals that it's beautiful just to it's beautiful to see them and really learn more about them. But black rhinos, I will say, are much more predictable. Because if you, I mean, the thing is, male black rhinos, so rhinos, Ivan, what was it? That's right, he was calling in a male. So there was a male black rhino up a hill. And to actually lure in a male, and this male was not too far from them, but you drag your shoe against a tree, or you scrape your boot against a tree, or you break limbs of a branch, but the shoe to the tree stating that's where a rhino will rub its horn on the tree. And rhinos will typically like kick branches and stuff like that and snap them. So to get that male over to Ivan, that's what Ivan and his crew did in the male. Because the thing is, rhinos have really bad eyesight, but they can still hear and smell. Um, and that rhino came in, and thankfully Ivan and his tour guide were right behind a tree. This black rhino didn't take any retreating. He charged right at him. They got up the tree, and Ivan almost got a horn right to the back of his calf. But that rhino, if they hadn't gotten up that tree, that rhino, I mean, rhinos impale lions too. Like, you see that horn go right through a lion. It's, as I said, rhinos are armored too. Like, they have really thick skin. I mean, there's more. There it's more like armor than. But black rhinos, I think, have more of a territorial behavior compared to northern white rhinos. But I honestly, I will say, if you have a stare down with a mom and a calf, I would still be really scared. Because we're talking about a rhino species that's way larger and that probably would kill you quicker. Even though a black rhino will kill you no problem, but um I mean, I will say rhino poaching is incredibly gruesome, and the fact that poachers will, just even if there's conserves that are protecting white rhinos, poachers will enter those reserves, climb over the fences, and they'll have two poachers that literally stay behind, and they'll start like throwing, what is it, like fireworks at the rhinos to scare them out of the bushes, or to have them retreat through the loud noise. And as I said, fight, flight, or freeze. Those rhinos are gonna flee. They're scared. The noise is traumatizing. The stress level is enhancing by every second. And unfortunately, there's poachers that will go in those restricted areas, kill the rhino they're after, and then they'll. But it's really, I hate to even show you guys any footage. It's very gruesome, and the fact they use these hatchets, or what is it? The small, like kind of the little axe that you use to split wood, or little pieces of wood. They'll use something a lot bigger, so they'll use like a standard axe and swing and cut the horn off the rhino when it's dead. And I'm like, it's one of the most brutal forms of poaching in my book. But rhino horns are typically is what's only taken from a rhino, because it's medicine. It's sold for ivory at the black market. But that's the thing. Most people know that rhino ivory is extremely expensive at the market. So there's another animal that actually substitute the ivory in that animal's horn less expensive. So meaning that they're starting to use this animal's horn now as ivory because it's less expensive than what than an ivory on a rhino's horn. So they replace horns for rhinos for this other animal's horn and hide. It's called the saga antelope, and they're native. There's populations of them ranging in Russia, Mongolia, but they are a weird looking antelope, and they are very cool looking because they look like something out of a Dr. Seuss book.